The vase had been sitting behind a stack of old cookbooks for nearly 30 years. It was heavy, brown, and covered with twisting leaves that looked almost black under the dust. The family clearing the house had already placed it beside the donation boxes. Then I turned it upside down. Pressed into the clay was a small mark that nobody had noticed. Beside it were faint artist's initials and a date symbol. What the family had dismissed as an ugly flower vase was potentially worth thousands of dollars. That discovery was not unusual. In fact, the most valuable vase in a house is often the one nobody displays proudly. It may look muddy, overly decorated, strangely shaped, or hopelessly old-fashioned. Yet one hidden signature, an unusual glaze, or a small feature on the base can separate a $20 decoration from an important work of art. My name is Margaret Ellison. I am 68 years old, and for more than 3 decades I worked as a decorative arts appraiser in eastern Pennsylvania. These days, I examine objects in a quiet room behind my small antique shop, surrounded by reference books, ultraviolet lamps, magnifying glasses, and shelves of pottery that families nearly gave away. Today, I want to show you 10 types of vases that deserve a second look. Some examples sell for modest amounts. Exceptional examples can reach 5, 6, or even 7 figures. Prices vary enormously with maker, age, size, decoration, condition, and documented history, so no mark or photograph can guarantee value. But by the end, you will know what details to check before a vase leaves your home. Let us begin with one of the most familiar shapes, the tall swung-glass vase. These stretched, twisting vases were especially popular during the middle of the 20th century. You may remember an orange, amber, green, or deep red example standing in a relative's front window. Many were inexpensive decorations, and common examples still sell for modest prices. But not all swung vases are ordinary. Companies such as Viking and Fenton produced collectible examples, including unusually tall pieces and glass with iridescent carnival finishes. Depending on the model, color, height, condition, and rarity, desirable examples can sell from under $100 to well above $1,000. Place the vase near a window and rotate it slowly. Does the surface create a shifting rainbow similar to oil floating on water? That may indicate an iridescent carnival finish. Then measure the vase from its base to its highest point. Height matters because the tallest examples were harder to manufacture, store, and preserve. Now inspect the rim carefully. Long swung vases are vulnerable to tiny chips where the glass was pulled upward. Run a finger near the edge without pressing hard. Even a small chip can reduce the value. The mistake most families make is assuming that every stretched vase was a cheap giveaway. The form may be common, but the right combination of maker, color, finish, and height can be surprisingly desirable. The second group is cameo glass. Imagine a dark vase decorated with flowers, insects, or vines in a lighter color. The design does not appear to be painted on the surface. Instead, it seems to emerge from layers within the glass. True cameo glass was created by building several colored layers and carefully removing portions of the outer layers to reveal the design beneath. The process required considerable skill. Émile Gallé, the famous French Art Nouveau artist and designer, became closely associated with this technique. Authentic Gallé pieces may carry a signature incorporated into the decoration. On some later pieces made after Gallé's death in 1904, a small star appears near the name. That detail can help with dating, but it does not prove authenticity by itself. Gallé signatures have been widely copied. Hold the vase under a strong sidelight. Hand-finished decoration should show depth. Leaves, wings, stems, and petals may sit on different levels. Cheap reproductions often have a flatter appearance, with patterns that look mechanically uniform. Exceptional Gallé works have achieved extraordinary auction prices, including 7-figure results, while common reproductions may sell for less than the cost of dinner. That enormous gap is exactly why these pieces require professional examination. But that was not the detail that changed everything for one family who visited my shop. They had brought me a dark purple vase wrapped in an old bath towel. They believed it was ordinary because the flowers looked gloomy and old-fashioned. Under angled light, however, I could see 3 separate layers of glass and fine hand-cut transitions around the petals. It was not a $1 million masterpiece, but it was valuable enough to pay for several months of household expenses. The third type is Weller pottery, particularly pieces from the Sicard line. Weller produced enormous quantities of American art pottery. Much of it remains affordable. The name alone does not make a piece rare. The Sicard line is different. Developed through the work of French ceramic artist Jacques Sicard, these pieces often display metallic, iridescent surfaces in purples, golds, greens, and bronze tones. Designs can seem to float beneath the glaze. Under weak room lighting, the surface may look dirty or tarnished. Under a lamp, it can suddenly come alive. Carry the vase into good light and turn it slowly. Look for a deep, changing metallic effect rather than one flat color. Valuable examples may also have elaborate decoration, unusual forms, artist markings, or strong provenance. Large and exceptional Weller-Sicard pieces can reach five-figure prices, although smaller or damaged examples may be worth considerably less. Never attack that dark surface with metal polish. The color is not tarnish sitting on top of the pottery. It is part of the decorative finish. Aggressive cleaning can permanently destroy the effect collectors value. Next is Moorcroft pottery from England. Moorcroft pieces are often heavy, richly glazed, and decorated with flowers outlined by raised lines. The technique is known as tube lining. A decorator applies thin ridges of liquid clay to create boundaries, rather like piping icing onto a cake. Colored glazes are then placed inside those raised sections. Gently move your fingertip across the design. You should be able to feel the outlines. If the entire pattern is perfectly flat and appears printed, you may be looking at a reproduction or a different type of pottery. Now examine the bottom. Early pieces may carry impressed marks, painted signatures, initials, or other factory information. Works connected directly with William Moorcroft and rare early designs can be significantly more valuable than later mass-produced examples. Ordinary Moorcroft pieces may sell for a few $100s or less. Rare early examples can climb into five figures. The next detail can be the difference between success and failure. Do not judge Moorcroft by age alone. Pattern, size, color, artist connection, condition, and rarity all matter. A large early vase with strong decoration may be important. A later common pattern, even if attractive, may have only moderate value. Our fifth category is iridescent American art glass, especially Tiffany Favrile. Favrile glass can glow with blue, green, gold, bronze, or purple surfaces that resemble peacock feathers, soap bubbles, or oil on water. Louis Comfort Tiffany's glassworks produced many shapes and patterns, from simple gold vases to complex decorated examples. Turn the vase over and look for a polished area underneath. This smooth ground section is commonly called the Pontil area. Authentic pieces may carry engraved markings such as LCT, LC Tiffany, or LC Tiffany Favrile, sometimes accompanied by letters and numbers. But markings must be evaluated with the glass itself. Signatures can be forged, altered, or added later. Study the quality of the color. Genuine, high-quality iridescent glass usually has depth and movement. The surface changes as the object turns. Cheap spray-coated glass may look bright from one direction but flat from another. And before you try cleaning it, there is one warning you need to hear. Do not use abrasive powder, strong chemicals, a dishwasher, or rough scrubbing pads on iridescent art glass. A delicate surface can become permanently cloudy or scratched. Dust it gently with a soft cloth and consult a conservator before attempting to remove stubborn residue. Condition can transform the price. A fine vase worth several $1,000s when intact may lose much of its value because of a rim chip, a drilled base, or a concealed crack. Now we come to blue and white Chinese porcelain. Nearly every antique shop contains blue and white jars, bottles, or vases. Most are decorative pieces made during the 19th, 20th, or 21st centuries. Some are attractive and collectible, but they are not necessarily imperial treasures. The dangerous assumption works in both directions. Some owners believe every Chinese mark indicates a dynasty. Others assume every piece is a modern copy. Both approaches can cause expensive mistakes. Turn the vase over and examine the mark, but do not stop there. Rain marks are among the most frequently copied features in Chinese ceramics. A 6-character mark may identify the style being imitated rather than the true period of production. Specialists also examine the porcelain body, foot rim, glaze, painting, proportions, firing characteristics, and signs of genuine age. The quality of the artwork matters. On better pieces, brushwork usually appears controlled and intentional. Figures, clouds, flowers, and borders should not look carelessly stamped or mechanically repeated. A genuine Ming or Qing imperial vase can command an extraordinary price, but the overwhelming majority of blue and white vases in ordinary homes are worth far less. That is why cautious evaluation matters. Hope is not authentication, but pessimism is not authentication either. The seventh group is reticulated Chinese porcelain. A reticulated vase has openings cut through an outer wall, creating a pierced surface that may resemble lace. Some pieces contain an inner vessel visible through the openings. The colors can be bold, pink, turquoise, green, yellow, and blue, and modern owners sometimes consider them excessively ornate. Yet the finest imperial examples required remarkable technical control. The potter had to create the pierced outer structure without allowing it to collapse, crack, or fuse incorrectly during firing. Inspect the cut openings. Are they crisp and carefully finished, or rough and uneven? Look at the painting around the edges. On high-quality work, decoration continues with precision even through complicated areas. One celebrated Qianlong period reticulated vase reportedly sold for a modest amount in the 1950s and returned to auction decades later for millions. The vase had not changed. Scholarship, market knowledge, and the identity of the object had. However, do not perform destructive home tests on porcelain, jade, glass, or hardstone. You may hear advice suggesting that you scratch an object with a blade to determine its hardness. That can damage the piece and may still produce a misleading result. A gemologist or specialist can use safer methods. Our eighth example proves why family cleanouts should never be rushed. In 2010, relatives clearing a house in Pinner, northwest London, discovered a Chinese vase sitting on a bookcase. It was approximately 16 inches tall and had reportedly been overlooked for years. When it reached auction, bidding rose to an astonishing level. The widely reported total exceeded £50 million with fees. However, the original winning bidder did not complete the purchase. The vase was later said to have changed hands privately for a lower, though still extraordinary amount. That complicated ending matters. Auction headlines do not always represent money successfully paid. Record prices should never be treated as automatic evidence that a similar-looking vase has the same value. The lesson is not that every vase on a bookcase is worth millions. The lesson is that important objects can survive in ordinary rooms because their owners have no reason to recognize them. The ninth vase began on a thrift store shelf in Virginia. In 2023, shopper Jessica Vincent noticed a slender glass vase decorated with loose bands of color. She paid $3.99 for it. The piece was later identified as a work designed by Italian architect Carlo Scarpa for Vanini, the celebrated Murano glassmaker. At auction, it sold for $107,100. Look closely at why the discovery mattered. It was not simply colorful glass. The vase had a sophisticated form, high-quality construction, painterly bands fused into the glass, and a connection to an important designer and glass house. Murano glass is another category where labels alone can mislead. Many decorative pieces carry Murano-style stickers, and labels can be removed, replaced, or copied. Specialists evaluate technique, shape, color, documented models, signatures, and manufacturing details. Do not assume that a missing sticker makes a vase worthless. A $4 discovery may have lost its original label decades earlier. At the same time, do not assume that every brightly colored Italian-looking vase is rare Vanini. Now we reach the category most likely to be sitting in an American home. Heavy art pottery vases in brown, green, blue, or muted floral glazes. Names such as Rookwood, Roseville, Weller, and McCoy appear regularly at estate sales. Some examples are common and affordable. Others, especially rare Rookwood pieces decorated by recognized artists, can command tens of thousands of dollars or more. This is where the method becomes far more powerful because the habit is simple. Turn the vase over. Rookwood used an impressed flame mark formed around two back-to-back letters. Additional symbols, numbers, and artist initials can provide information about date, shape, clay body, and decorator. Roseville pieces may carry raised or impressed markings, although marks changed over time and some genuine examples are unmarked. McCoy also used several different marks across its history. Feel the mark carefully. Is it raised, impressed, painted, scratched, or printed? Photograph it in clear light. Then photograph the entire vase, the foot, the rim, the interior, and any damage. But remember, a mark begins the investigation. It does not finish it. Fake marks are common because the bottom of an object is easier to imitate than the craftsmanship of the complete piece. Before selling or donating a vase, follow this simple plan. First, place a folded towel on a stable table. Handle the vase with clean, dry hands and support it with both hands. Second, examine the base. Photograph every symbol, number, signature, label, and old inventory sticker. Third, measure the height and widest point. Accurate measurements help identify shapes and models. Fourth, inspect the rim, handles, foot, and body under bright indirect light. Look for chips, hairline cracks, repairs, drilled holes, and unusual wear. Fifth, do not clean aggressively. Dust can be removed gently, but old surfaces, labels, mineral deposits, and patina may contain useful information. Sixth, compare the vase with completed auction results, museum collections, and reliable reference books, not merely optimistic asking prices online. Finally, seek a qualified specialist when the vase has a promising mark, unusual construction, fine hand decoration, significant age, or a family history connecting it to travel, collecting, or an important estate. A professional opinion becomes especially important before shipping, repairing, cleaning, or accepting a dealer's first offer. Most vases you examine will not fund your retirement. Many will be worth modest amounts, and some will have greater sentimental value than market value. But a careful inspection can prevent an irreplaceable object from disappearing into a donation bin. After 30 years of watching families clear cupboards and attics, I have learned that familiarity is the greatest disguise an antique can wear. We stop noticing the objects that have always been around us. The brown vase becomes part of the shelf. The blue jar becomes something that belonged to Grandma. The tall glass piece becomes a dust collector nobody wants. Then one curious person picks it up, turns it over, and discovers that the story was waiting underneath. Which vase in your home are you going to examine first, and who originally owned it? Subscribe for more calm, practical guidance on identifying overlooked antiques. Because next time, we are opening the kitchen cabinets to reveal the old glass dishes that can glow under ultraviolet light and the common lookalikes that fool almost everyone.